and I can I make this public? Can I make this public? That's not yet. But now I'm allowed to. But it's super crazy. I mean, the numbers in Brazil were like shooting to the moon. It's just like because the hospitals wanted to earn money. Literally everybody who died was declared COVID death and a COVID victim, and then the media took it up and it's like, look at these numbers. Oh my gosh, so many people died due to COVID. But no, they just died and they were labeled as a COVID victim.
I remember this because actually I had a conversation with a doctor, I think back in 21, just like second quarter of 21. I still remember somebody talked to me about this, and I have no idea really how they kind of found me, but I just happened to be in a specific channel chat at the time. And they were just there like, dude, hey, I want to tell you something really, really crazy, but you can't tell anyone. I'm like, okay, sure. And then they told me basically exactly the thing that you just stated. And so I was like sitting on this for a couple of years. I'm like, what the fuck? It's a tremendous amount of pressure. And it's really, really weird. Because like if you consider something like this is just, it creates a remarkable amount of mistrust in, healthcare for anything. I don't think anyone's going to go to the doctor anymore and think of the doctor the same way that they used to. Thanks to this, I certainly won't be able to. I don't trust anyone anymore, especially due to this and what has happened. I've had other experiences in the past beyond just this, but damn, dude, it was absolutely insane. And there were other stuff such as what about the respirators, the stuff that they did to people's lungs? You want to talk about that?
Yeah. I know a person died because of that. So one of my best friends' mom, super obese, Russians. She was in a hospital in Moscow, and they just put her on ventilators, and she died of pneumonia eventually. Because I mean, when they put it into your nose and throat, they get all these bacteria into your lung, and that's like in many cases lethal. So she also developed a sepsis, and I was talking to the docs, and it's like, hey, you have to inject her with vitamin D, so you can avoid the sepsis. They said like, no, that's bullshit. It's like pseudoscience. And like 2 days later, she died. And there is so much evidence that calcifediol, so the bioavailable vitamin D, can beat or you avoid dying of sepsis for like I think 90-95%. There was a study which was conducted in Scotland. So yeah, unfortunately, they didn't want to listen. They said like pseudoscience, and they're going to do their protocol, ventilators and whatever. It's no chance fighting those. They thought they were demigods. They knew everything, and eventually they were the ones killing millions all over the world. Unfortunately, it's a shame.
I think even Elon voiced a concern about this. He said something, I think, about the concentration of oxygen as well as the pressure that the lungs were under because of all the air that was being pumped into them, and that effectively the lungs were being cooked. And, of course, him saying this, then I got a lot of criticism thrown at him, which is really kind of weird because you'd think that kind of person would know what he's talking about specifically in this area, because he has to create life support systems for his space capsules. Otherwise, the astronauts would die. So it was kind of funny that you had all these people coming out of the woodwork to call him out and say, oh, this is bullshit. He doesn't know what he's talking about. When in reality, of course, he clearly does, because that's one of the things he has to deal with. And I think he even got that understanding from, I think he made a call to Wuhan or something and asked them what exactly were their what were the things that he saw? What were the things that they saw, which were early mistakes made? And then I think he kind of like came to that and posted this, which gained him heavy criticism at the time, unfairly so, of course.
Yeah, I mean, like literally everything that in the beginning, all these measures and first 8 measures, they were literally all wrong. I mean, later they even introduced Paxlovid. Super wild. I mean, the clinical studies were awful, and they were still giving it to people, including some people many considered being on our side, like Peter McCullough was like totally simping for Paxlovid. Meanwhile, they were demonizing ivermectin, vitamin D, melatonin, just going outside in the sun. Going outside in the sun, by the way, is very good. Very good studies about just sunlight. I mean, that's what they did during the Spanish flu. They just put all the patients outside in the sun, half naked, and this was the best measure they had.
Sunlight is the best disinfectant.
Yeah, it is. That's why this saying exists. And this was stay inside. All over the world, this like stay inside. It's a playbook. I mean, they knew that staying inside will make people more sick and make this epoch appear like a pandemic. So they tried to get the numbers up. And do you remember these are wild, the modelers? Who did this? It's Ferguson in Great Britain. Oh, he had a model. Wow. Like, look, Sweden is gonna, he had a model for Sweden. Like, literally say, like, the whole population is gonna die. Like, everybody's gonna die in Sweden. It's like, it's a model. It's true. and then you looked at Sweden, and they were the best because they didn't have measures. Also, modelers, Topol in California, Eric Topol. I mean, like, everybody who's not blocked by Topol is wrong. And there were crazy modelers in Holland and Germany as well. They were just like putting stuff, it's like bullshit in, bullshit out. Up their own variables, their own parameters. And they were saying, like, look, it's going to be super deadly. And none of these models was accurate. None of them. There were like hundreds of models. None of them was accurate. And, next time they're going to do it again. And, like, the same people who did this come out doing the climate models. You can't make this up. So it's really wild. Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, by their prediction, we're supposed to be, I think, underwater twice over. I don't really see that happening.
I think
it's not happening.
2021, yes, we should all be swimming in water. Yeah.
New York is Atlantis now. Oh, wait, it's not. That's one of the big problems.
No, modeling is pseudoscience, and literally all predictions in the early 20 years, and they were all wrong. And they still have their jobs. And I lost my jobs. I lost 2 jobs for what I said online, which turned out to be right? And they still have their jobs. So
wow.
It's wild. So the system is, and these people will stay in power. So, for example, Peter Hotez. I mean, he's one of my my favorite bastards here on the platform. Everything he was literally saying was wrong, right? Literally everything. And still, he's the one who's invited by mainstream media over and over again. And whatever he's saying, it's wrong. You can read all his old tweets in 2020 and 2021. It's wrong. And when he has to confess or be in front of Congress, he's telling totally different stuff than what he's telling to the media. So these people were the experts, everybody had to listen to. But eventually, these people just confused others. People listened to them, people died.
What do you think the practice of, say, going outside and, like, just in general, like, wait, okay, so why was this the vitamin D, why was this villainized? Like, can you explain why exactly? What was the logic behind this? There must have been some sort of logic. What did they use as logic, and how was that false?
So I don't know. I just experienced it because my scientific field, so my PhD is in system dynamics and system thinking, and I applied it in many things, and in growing food on Mars. So this is one in desert and in Mars. This was one thing I was actually doing my PhD about. My postdoc was more about metabolism. And when they started with this COVID panic, I was like, okay, I'm very deep into vitamin D, so let's publish a paper saying nobody should worry about this. Just get your vitamin D up and you'll be fine, right? So I wrote this publication, submitted it to one of the best journals in the world, so top-notch journal, I think top 1%, and it got peer-reviewed and published, right? So far so good. So that's what a scientist does. And I was in this paper, I was literally saying, like, okay, you have to take vitamin D, take it together with magnesium because of enzymatic activities, take it together with vitamin K2, otherwise it could cause calcification. But if you take it with vitamin K2 and you have a vitamin D blood serum level higher than 50, you're going to be totally all right and you don't have to worry about anything. So this was my paper in a nutshell. So what happened next is that many people on X or elsewhere were contacting my former university and also the journal saying, look, there's Simon Godek is publishing pseudoscience. Vitamin D does nothing. It's just like a vitamin, and it does nothing. It does actually nothing to your immune system. And I mean, vitamin D is the immunoregulating hormone. So if you have sufficient vitamin D, your immune system is working. If you have less than like 15 or 10 nanograms per milliliter, it shuts down. So it's common knowledge. But they were like literally writing or mailing my university every single day. I don't know who they are. I figured out who two of them are because one professor was like accidentally leaking the name in the mail. So it was some bird watcher from North Holland. Anyway, he was, and they were also contacting the publisher, the published my publication. They were saying like Simon is running a vitamin D shop. I mean, I now do, but back then I didn't even think about running a vitamin D shop. It didn't even come to my mind, but they were like claiming this and saying, "Oh, get money from selling vitamin D," and I had to literally show them my whole bank account and all the transactions to the university to just prove I didn't earn money with any vitamin D shop. It was ridiculous. So I think they weren't even allowed to ask for it because like privacy. But I mean, like I showed them. I was like, look, there's no vitamin D, and then they left me alone for I think 6 months until I wrote a tweet about the PCR protocol review process that only took 24 hours and was like there was so much corruption involved. And I didn't even say there was corruption involved. I was just like explaining how a peer process works, why this one hasn't been done. And then I lost my job right away. So yeah, these were difficult times as a scientist. Once you just like spoke, you didn't even have to speak out. You just had to like raise your lift your head a little bit, and they would just like cut you, you know. So there was no chance for upbred scientists to work during this time.
Wow. One of the primary, there's a thing because past the PCR test, of course, and the incorrect application of this, as you would say, the ivermectin part. That's where I think things got really interesting, where they somehow classified this medication as horse medicine for no reason whatsoever. Even at that one incident,
horse paste. Horse paste.
Like they tried to smear Joe Rogan with this one as well, by like altering the color of his face on one of the pictures that they showed on the news. Yeah, really good stuff. Can you tell me some more about that? Like, how exactly did this come to pass? Like, what was the reason behind why they said this was horse paste? Like, I don't understand it still. Do you have a perspective?
It's very easy. So usually you apply ivermectin to horses as a dewormer, also to dogs. So this is what I do when my dogs get ivermectin like 4 times a year. I take ivermectin twice a year, before COVID even. So we like there are 105 ivermectin studies, right, to this point, with I think a quarter million, even more than a quarter million patients treated, right, and 60% of all studies were extremely positive. So, like, why? Like let's say. No, I just said it the wrong way. So ivermectin, the average study lowered the risk of COVID regarding mortality, ventilation, ICU administration, etc. by 60%. So there were hardly any negative studies, but mainly positive studies. So even as a prophylaxis, it had an positive effect of 85%. And taking 20,000 people into account, they knew this. So they knew this beforehand, even because there were studies on ivermectin and the flu and other pathogens before. So when people used common sense, like, "Oh, I just took ivermectin," they were like, "Whoa, we need to vilify it now," because if you're all over the world, you probably see, "Oh, there's not just the normal excess mortality, there's a negative excess mortality." It's like, why? This is not a pandemic. So they had to vilify it. And I think there were some parts of the world that put ivermectin into like some first aid kit. I think it was like in Mexico and in India. And in these states, you saw like, oh, there are no death, like there are no COVID-related death, or nobody that shows these flu or common cold symptoms. So it worked, and then they vilified it all over the world, and you were not even allowed to buy it in Europe. And I think in the US it was also very difficult to get. In Brazil, you can still get it in every drugstore for like $1, so it's super cheap. And people here were taking it, of course. But then we had these these hospitals would just like declare everybody a COVID victim. So we couldn't see the effect of ivermectin. But yeah, it works just like melatonin. I mean, they didn't believe in melatonin. Still wondering why. Maybe it didn't make it into the media. So the data on melatonin is extremely positive as well. So it's very intriguing. I think it has it lowered the risk by 80%, which is more than significant. And vitamin D, it's a bit more complicated on vitamin D, because it's quite simple. To build up a vitamin D level, a sufficient vitamin D level takes a month. All right, so you can't just take it and it pops right away. So for vitamin D, you have to look into the sufficiency studies, and the sufficiency studies, they were also extremely positive. So it lowers the risk by 50%. And then if you look into the sufficiency studies itself, most studies determined 20 nanograms per milliliter of vitamin D sufficient, which is not sufficient. It's extremely deficient still. Sufficient is higher than 40. And if you look into the studies that said, sufficient is higher than 40, so the reduction, I think the risk reduction is like 95 to 99% in vitamin D. And they knew this, also knew this. So they were, of course, saying like vitamin D is bogus, and they were going after everybody who was publishing this. And I only got into all of this because of my vitamin D paper. I actually just wanted to publish it and then just like go on with my life, but then everybody attacked me, and that's when I literally woke up. I knew masks were not effective. I mean, like as a biotechnologist, I have some sense of I understand physics, so I know that masks are not effective. I know several docs who are always saying like, okay, masks don't work. It's just like so the saliva doesn't drop into a wound, when they were during surgery. I was like, okay, this mask stuff I think is stupid, and I mean, like, I wasn't complying there, but I wasn't a rebel. I was just like not wearing a mask because I thought it was ridiculous. Until like all these attacks started, and then of course I'm like, what's happening here? And that was like literally a wake up effect on myself.
I also remember with the mask specifically, that was my breaking point, because I looked at the physical nature of what a mask is and how it works, how it's supposed to work, especially the types of masks which were basically forced on everyone. And I just realized this doesn't make sense on any level whatsoever. Like the stuff that would cause you harm, like the particulates that would come out of your mouth, just by breathing itself, it would be even worse because you'd be wearing this thing and then the breath would be redirected potentially in the face of a nearby, like a bystander, effectively. If you were, like, say, in a train or something, or a bus or any kind of transport, and you had a person sitting next to you, you were to breathe into your mask, because as you do, then you breathe out, like the act of exhaling, like the volume of air is such that it just pushes the sides of the mask away and allows the air to escape towards the sides. So the mask itself is not even effective on that level. And I think there was a great demonstration done by someone, I think it was an aerospace engineer, who was vaping. And you could see clearly how it was all coming out of the side. It was good. It was a good demonstration. It was funny as hell. So I was arguing with this with Instagram. It was great.
It's like a petri dish, I mean, like when you're wearing this face mask, literally you're breathing your own fungi just in front of your mouth, and you're inhaling everything you're breathing in the mask. So they were very interesting studies they were bringing out during the time that it got even made it to publication, and you could literally see that masks are very harmful, especially the same people who were like fear-mongering COVID, who were like totally zealots and minions of during the pandemic. They're the same people who were like telling us that climate change is dangerous, and that the raising CO2 levels are like harmful for us, which like they're raising by, I don't know, just like per mils, so per millions even. And meanwhile the children were forced to wear a mask and inhale significant amount of CO2 that would even lower their oxygen level in the blood and raise their CO2 level in the blood. And they didn't have issues with this, but don't use fossil fuel. you will kill someone. It doesn't make any sense. So masks were extremely harmful at every point of the pandemic. And I wore one, I think, once. I wanted to fly, so I was flying a lot because of all these exemptions, and I was traveling more than ever because the flights were so cheap. And they literally said, like, at security, like, security control, you have to wear one. I'm like, I have an exemption. They're like, oh, you have to wear one, otherwise we're not going to let you pass. I'm like, I don't have a mask. And they were like, gave me one, like, you were just wearing it for 10 seconds. I was putting it on, like, off right away. I think this was the only time I was wearing a mask. And otherwise, I was like, what the heck? Even these 10 seconds were like accommodating. So I don't understand how people were able to wear a mask for like a whole day. I mean, how can you inhale your whole breath the whole day? It's like, it's torture, and some people loved it.
Some people loved it. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, you had like this interesting stuff come out that I still remember from it. It was a very strange time because the social effects were the ones that were most striking. Like, I have a very detailed understanding of socialist Germany. East Germany was a terrible situation. But like, there would be instances where randomly, for no apparent reason, people would just be calling each other in to the authorities. Like, it's these very unheard of people. They don't really do anything productive. You don't see them, but then they just call you in for no reason whatsoever. So it'd be people who don't wear masks or who don't respect the quarantine as much. Then you have the neighbor just call you in, and it's like, it's so interesting because it reminded me so very much of what I read about and what people from the time period had told me as to what socialist East Germany was be like. It was exactly like that. It was really fucking stupid.
They were
genau, Staatsicherheit.
So that's what they were doing. Just like, I think Germany was hardcore. I mean, like, I'm from Holland, but my family is from Germany, so I'm reading the news a bit, and I'm quite informed what's going on there. And it was really wild. So neighbors were having a party, and they would just call the police about them. In Holland, it didn't. There were not that many snitches, so in Holland it was not usual. But I saw it a lot happening in other countries, UK, Germany, France. The more socialist, of course, the crazier people get, and they were spying on each other, checking what does the neighbor say. Is the neighbor vaccinated? It's really, really wild, and what you could really see is the abyss of society. They were going all in. You remember all these accounts here on I mean, like, when it was still called Twitter, when we all got banned, like, literally, it was like 50% of the accounts here had like syringes next to their profile, and where are they now? Or where are all these people now? Are they still there? Are they among us? I have no clue, but it was full. This platform was full of people who were literally saying, like, okay, those people who don't wear a mask are killing others, and where are they now? I mean, I don't know. I don't see them anymore.
Around somewhere, lurking around, the NPCs, they have this incredible ability. Human NPCs have the ability to evolve,
Yeah, maybe they're on Blue Sky now.
Yeah, perhaps. I've been there a bunch. That echo chamber is absolutely hilarious. I haven't posted anything. I just basically put there as a troll, into my bio. Follow me on x.com, and that's it. That's the only reason I have it there, so that an impersonator can't take the handle and fuck around with it. But damn,
I posted there, I think 5 posts, and my profile is now flagged, so nobody can read my posts anymore. I've been flagged as intolerant, so. It's my flag. So every time you want to read any of my posts, I can say, like, hey, good morning. It would be automatically flagged as intolerant. And you have to click on it. I really want to see this. And you see Simon said, good morning. So it took me one day to be flagged as intolerant. I said, man can get pregnant, I think. So obviously intolerant towards minority group. That's what they said. I received an email. Okay, I mean, pregnant man, our minority group, there is 0, So it's a minority indeed. But I mean, like, I didn't hurt anyone's feeling because men can't get pregnant. But anyways, I'm shadow banned there officially. So blue sky sucks. And many pedophiles there, by the way. I was like scrolling through the timeline. They were like full of pedophiles. Like they call themselves mind attracted people or person, mind attracted person. And you scroll through there and you see like the profiles. They all say like mind attracted person. And it's like fucked up. Like just don't go there. It's like it's an echo chamber and it's a quite nasty one.
Yes, yeah. The minor attractive persons thing is quite a worrying trend. They like maps. If you see, like, for instance, whenever you see a bio or something with a map in it, like say your username, the screen name, right? You'd have a map in it for sometimes. That would indicate the minor attractive person thing. It's not always the case, but it is. Yeah. So
there's a map emoji.
Yeah. There's a map emoji. You can use it. It's just a map. Normal map. You think it very innocent, but that's you see that sometimes. Somebody told me this once, like a while ago. I can't remember who exactly, but they told me like they were doing some data analysis, and then that kind of came along, and to say, oh hey, I actually know that does, yeah.
That's fucked up.
Yeah.
So I mean, in Blue Sky, they don't even put a map. They just write it out. My attracted person. So they don't hide it,
Yeah.
Over here, maybe they put maps. I've never seen it, so.
Yeah, me either. So it must be like a very edge case trend, and on here they take child safety very seriously. To the point is like I've never seen a single one of these instances occur here at all. So it's very safe. It's a very safe environment for sure, especially for kids, I think, as well. There's like some content on here that might not be really suitable for kids. Because it's free speech, people will say some stuff that's quite off the chain, although it'd be funny. But largely it's a really good platform. And Blue Sky is an absolute total echo chamber. It's insane. I don't understand because like these are the people that have accused individuals of a very particular political position of being in an echo chamber, and they themselves now have sought out the echo chamber to the point that they actually prefer it. Just wild. Like, why is this the case?
Yeah, during Twitter 1.0. It was an extreme extreme. We were all shadow banned, all of us. Literally, everybody was like, I'm a libertarian, but they're me and conservatives get along very well, so I think we get along in general. It's like the liberals who are who are really unable to have a normal discussion, and they call themselves peaceful. They say that they are like open-minded, and whatever, but they're not. They're both not. And me as a libertarian, I get along with almost all conservatives. I don't have any issue with this, as long as you can just like sit down, have a good talk, have a beer, an alcohol-free beer or whatever. It's fine, But you cannot have a conversation with liberals. It's clearly impossible. I know you hold many spaces. I'm usually never in spaces. So the amount of conversation I have with liberals and commies is very low, especially as there are none of them here in the Brazilian jungle. So, but that's what I see online. What I see online is whenever you're trying to ever have a discussion with one of these people, it's not working, right? And the whole November I've been traveling in the US. It's the same thing, If whenever you meet a liberal and you just start to talk, like if it's in a bar or in a restaurant, it doesn't work. I mean, like they're not tolerant. They call themselves the tolerant left, but they're not tolerant. Whenever you don't agree with any what they say, they use words against you. They call you fascist. They call you transphobic. I'm not afraid of mentally ill people, so why do they call me a transphobic? It doesn't make sense. So they call me whatever, but they never call me a liar. So they can use all these words, but they never call me a liar because they can't accuse me of lying. But that's why I prefer having a conversation with conservatives. Also during COVID, real life friends were really harsh on me. I have Instagram. I don't use it, but I think like 2 or 3 times I posted something, against Musk or something. They were like literally going after me, calling me a Nazi, next Hitler or whatever, And I mean, like they could just like, hey Simon, how about you read this paper? It gives you a different, nothing because they don't have arguments. So they would just like go dominant. and that's what happened a lot. So I had issues with family, friends. I felt like super alone, let's put it like this, because I mean, like, just imagine you're there in May, June 2020, saying like, oh, all of this is a psyop. Everybody's looking at you like, what the fuck? And only my dad, he was totally like, yeah, most likely. Like, but the rest of my family, they were all afraid. Yeah, that was a difficult time. I think everybody who was like red pilled early experienced this. And I mean, like, the damage they have done to us or to critical people or to people who just dare to express different thought on what was going on was, yeah, tremendously unfair. I mean, it wasn't only about losing jobs; it was like about losing friends, family, and I even had to leave my home country. So it went that far because they were like just freezing my bank accounts for I don't know what reason. They said like, oh, whatever. No, PayPal and my bank were like just shutting it down. And I mean, like, what could I do? The whole government was not on my side. I had police knocking at my door several times, checking if I'm not breaking quarantine, because, you know, I told you I was traveling a lot, and they were like literally at my doorstep several times. Once I just got back from a jog, like was in the shower, and they were like, "Fuck, we just want to see that you're not leaving. No, don't worry." Stuff like that. So really wild. And I didn't feel safe anymore. I didn't feel home anymore in a society that's like discriminating someone who's just like expressing their knowledge. I mean, like, as a scientist, I'm supposed to ask questions, right? As a scientist, I'm supposed to come up with a hypothesis and try to reject it. So that's what scientists do. But since 2020, they come up with hypotheses and they try to prove it. You can't do that. you come up with this and try to reject it. You know, and they just come up with a hypothesis. They build a model around it so they could. So actually, their input would prove their theory, and then they would say everybody was like, "Oh wait," it's like, "Oh, you're anti-science." You know, I mean, I think we've been called this a lot, anti-science. You're anti-science. And Peter Hotes was even saying that I and many others should be treated like terrorists, and that they should like send an anti-terrorist group after us. He even wrote it down. So I mean, like, I think I posted several times that he said like that we should be treated as terrorists, and that's something. I don't know. It's not normal, you know. I was quite shocked because they, you know, they were calling us. So that's why I left. Yeah, that's why I still kind of go to Europe. Now Europe is even woker. Now it's even worse. I mean, like, they want to start a war against Russia and all this stuff. So I'm happy I'm not in Europe anymore. But it doesn't feel like, you know, I don't know. At the beginning of 2000s, I was living in the US. The same, like, my childhood in the US was like so different than now. It was prior to September 11th, but still was like so different. And Europe the same. Europe, as a child in Europe, it was like super awesome. And nowadays, literally, if you go to Berlin, for example, there are no male or female toilets anymore. They're all like unisex or whatever. You know? It's really turning into a woke shithole, like Weimar too, but not just not just Weimar Republic, but literally all Europe, all Western Europe. So I'm glad I'm not there anymore, but it's like very concerning what's happening.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, recently I put out a little bit of a joke, given I can understand the German language, as I'm German myself. I said, hey, you know, it's kind of funny, it's kind of ironic that, you know, the newspaper that's called Der Spiegel, you know, literally translated to the mirror does not reflect reality. I was like, I wrote that out there just as a joke. And then, like, some person was responding there with, like, European flag nonsense in his bio or whatever. Multiple flags. Like, if you have more than 2 flags in your bio, I think there might be something that you need to consider, and a therapist is probably one of them. Yeah. No idea why, but it's a very very accurate thing that I've come up with to basically map people. But that besides the point, right? They were like saying, "Oh, I don't understand, you know, the Europe or German free speech." I'm like, yes, I do. Yes, I do. First of all, it doesn't exist, and it doesn't really exist in Europe at all anymore either. You're just saying this because you yourself haven't heard the truth, so you're obligated to believe this thing. Because if you've never heard the truth before, if you've never heard an opposing opinion before, then you're going to assume that what you've heard is, of course, the truth. Because the opinion that would challenge this reality that's been projected for you would have come through. Obviously, it's a very logical assessment of the mind, but clearly does not. And many of the people who I know who have had friends go to, say, Germany, for instance, they go there. And then within like 3 or so years, they would be effectively indoctrinated. Their entire will, it's like as if you took the mind and its ability to expand beyond like defined axioms of, whatever, really, it's like your knowledge base is contained within like certain types of axioms, you can expand beyond it. But like what they do is they take your mind and they push it into this tiny little box, and they like really crush it and squeeze it out into every tiny little fucking corner, such that the gray matter of your brain just fills it out perfectly, and everything that kind of is in excess just gets cut away, and then as it forms, your free will. And that's exactly how these people behave. They're absolute NPCs and complete societal degeneracy. I mean, there's a saying that is very true and very unfortunate, and it is that it is hardly any young women in their 20s and above in Berlin who haven't been in a gangbang. That's scary. That is horrible.
Yeah.
That is absolutely awful. Why would you want this?
Yeah, exactly. But like my nieces go to school in Germany, and like once they were like, "Hey Simon," like they were starting to talk about pronouns, and then their teacher asked them which pronoun. Like I was like, "Forget this shit," don't. But unfortunately, their teacher had more impact. I think they're also very leftists now, so they do the pronoun things. And they're being told that being heterosexual is not the norm. It's not normal, and that they can change their sexuality every day if they want to. I mean, like this in the schools, indoctrination. I mean, like if you take this kind of degree of indoctrination in Germany and you combine it with the Tagesschau, which is literally like I know this phenomenon. We have it in Holland. It's called NOS News, but Tagesschau is literally every evening from 8 till 8:15. The whole country would sit in front of the television and watch the governmental news that they have to pay for $18.96 or 36 cents per month. So they have to pay for it to be indoctrinated. And literally, if you watch these 15 minutes, it's always the opposite. It's like Orwellian. You watch it, and everything is a lie from the beginning to the end. And they even during COVID, they had people at this Tagesschau. It's much worse than Schwarzer Kanal, which is like the Black Channel. I think it was like from East Germany, some socialist shit. Tagesschau is much worse. They were like just saying, "Oh, look, the unvaccinated are the appendix of society," and all this stuff. People would sit there in front of me, like, yes. If they say so, it's the truth. So people believe Tagesschau. People watch it. Everybody's watching it. I don't know. Everybody I know in Germany is like, "Oh, it's 8 o'clock. Let's turn on the TV until 8:15. Let's get indoctrinated." And I think this society, Germany, is the most indoctrinated society in Europe. I mean, like I cannot think of any which is woker than that. You can actually see it by you mentioned Der Spiegel, which is it's not even Orwellian. It's worse. It's worse than Orwellian. I mean, like how many?
It's like Kramer and Vernon. It says one thing, and if you turn it upside down, it's actually the truth. It's like you basically Kramer and Vernon in real time.
What they were saying about Elon Musk and Trump in the last, so they were actually just focusing on Elon Musk and Trump. This was like 90% of their content in the last, 6 months. But they were never criticized the German Chancellor, and he's been involved in CumEx and in other big scandals. But they wouldn't report that. Why? Really? Let's focus on Elon Musk. Let's call him like the next Goebbels or whatever. That's what they did. And people are like, okay, but this medium, it's always been a good one. So why wouldn't we believe it? So my uncle is a big fan. And I'm like tell him he's like, oh look, Assad is like the worst ever. I'm like, come on. Like, oh, why do you think so? Yeah, Spiegel. I'm like, no, come on. He's like literally pro-European Union, pro-LGBTQ, whatever the Spiegel is saying, is kind of shaping his opinion. And there is no way, if I say the opposite, I'm like a right-wing extremist. Well, like, they say, when did you become that extremistic? I'm like, I'm not an extremist. Like, yes, you are. Like, no. Just because I'm against the war in Ukraine, they're like, yeah, of course we need to send war weapons to Ukraine. Like, no, yeah, I'm the extremist. You know, it's well, and you cannot enter a normal conversation with these people because they would always say like, oh, you know, you come up, you say like, I'm anti-war, and they say like, oh, you're Putin Versteher, which is like, how do you translate Versteher? That's like what Germans say.
Putin understander is like sympathizer, almost sympathizer. I think it's more accurate, but like it's
yes, it's a sympathizer. They would call you that. And whenever you say or you say, hey guys, Middle East, I'm neither. I don't like Hamas. I don't like Israel. I don't like any side that's killing each other. You know, they're like, you're anti-Semitic, or you like you're what they say, you're anti-Muslim, or like Islamophobic. It doesn't matter. You know, one side says one thing, the other says another thing. So whatever you say, they would come and call you things. And of course, during COVID, they said like there was a word they were saying there in Holland. Germany, I think they called you Schwurbler or something like this, and in Holland they called you Waffen. So which means like, how do you translate Schwurbler? I have no clue, Adrian.
Dude, I have no idea what that even is, man. I'll be real with you.
Yeah,
that sounds ridiculous.
It's like someone who is literally expressing lies to manipulate people. So that's what they were saying.
I see.
Yeah. So you would literally just spread misinformation, just like because you love to do it, and just because you want to harm people. And so this was.
I see. Yeah.
It's a Schwurbler. It's a weird word. I didn't know at the beginning as well. I was like, what is this? What is this word? And they're explaining it to me. It's like someone who's spreading misinformation and you know, just by spreading it without any goal. You know, just like doing it. Why not? And whenever you would come up, or like there's another word they say, Querdenker, which is like literal thinker, and they used it against literally everybody who was against the narrative. Even my brother came up, are you a Querdenker? Like, what the fuck? Like, why? You know, and I mean, like, that's why I think they read 1984 because they again use this playbook. You know, they check, okay, how can we call people? How can we create a ministry of truth? How can we implement new speech? So making up new words in order to discredit those who dare to speak their mind. And it was really heavy in Europe, and it was quite soft in Brazil. Of course, the Brazilian communists, they were like hardcore comedians, like and the socialists here. But luckily, there are not many of these people where I live. I think in the U.S. it was like quite harsh in New York and all the super liberal areas. But otherwise, I mean, like as long as you lived in a rather conservative place, it was fine. You know, at least outside of Europe.
The appendix of society, that's still stuck in my mind. That's gonna be like the most. That cuts like a scalpel. That's remarkable. It's a really good insult. Not gonna lie.
Well, it's a good one. We should use it. I will send you the link of this person saying this. How do you say appendix in German again? I found out that. Yeah, and she won. This person, Sarah Bozzetti, was saying that she now won the prize, the governmental prize. She won something. But yeah, I will find it for you and I will send it to you privately. But because it was really heavy.
Thank you.
Yeah. And no need to.
I didn't even see that. I like.
Better don't enter German Twitter, German X. It's toxic. It's really cancer. I'm avoiding it. I prefer the Dutch X. It's more friendly.
Right.
German X is like.
I've seen some of their memes. They're kind of funny.
Yeah.
Some of their memes are kind of stupid, but in a funny way.
They get their houses rated. They get their houses rated if they post memes. It's like in the
I know, it's insane, man.
yeah, the UK and Germany, they get raided. I mean, like there is the one person who got raided who called the Minister of Economy a hole, just hole, HOLE. He didn't even say asshole, just like a star and hole, which is like nothing. Like in German, just said Loch. Got raided. What the fuck? For calling someone a hole without ass. I mean, like, even asshole shouldn't get you raided, but he got raided. For a hole. And this is happening in the UK as well. You know, you say anything and you get raided. It's fucked up. I mean, like, imagine this happening in the US. Not gonna happen. I hope so.
Yeah, as long as they have their guns, then I think they'll ever do something like that. I think, like, look at Australia as a great example of like the COVID insanity. I think rather, you know, they're still proposing stuff which is absolutely insane, like the license to post memes. I think that got shut down recently, but then there was one particular law that I think is going to come into force in 2026, which is this thing I'm pretty sure many of you have heard of. And interestingly, the verbiage with which the legacy media outlets in that country described it was world leading. You know, when you say world leading, it is the insinuation that you expect all others to follow that lead, right? So as to basically take this policy, and this policy in particular being preventing people, children from the age of 16, like under age of 16, from accessing social media, right? They want that law to be basically, by that verbiage, you know, implemented everywhere. Because if you are the leader and you want to lead the world, that means that everyone should follow your lead, right? And so I felt that was very interesting. But I think one of the major reasons why something like that even comes to pass there is, and I got this from an Australian who, you know, is an 80s baby, grew up there, good mind, good person, I like him very much. And he told me that the only reason why something like that is possible is because, you know, they took their guns away. If they would still had their guns, there would be no way that they would try something like that, because it would be an uprising. Right? Even in the US, they never tried it like that.
When did they do it?
It was actually not too long ago. That's the worst part. It was actually not too long ago. And I think it was after a mass shooting. I forgot the name of the individual, but there was like some sort of shooting. And then after that, they basically decreed, oh, we're going to take everyone's guns away.
Wow.
It actually worked. I think they even had like a buyback program at the time, so that, you know, to get like money-free guns. Yeah, it was a huge thing. Some people still kept them. It's illegal. So.
It's a penal colony, you know. Well,
ironic, isn't it? Right?
Yeah, exactly. No, but if you look, for example, Europe, I think the countries with the most guns per capita are Switzerland and Finland, and they have the least crimes with guns. So just ask yourself why, you know. And also in the US, if you check white gun owners, hardly any crimes. So I think the fact that they want to take away the guns is counterproductive. For example, here in Brazil, only criminals have guns, you know, and there are gangs and they're robbing people. And if everybody were allowed to have a gun, there wouldn't be any more criminals. So I don't understand. I mean, I understand why they do it, because they want to implement tyranny. That's what usually happens. I mean, like, Hitler was taking away people's guns. I mean, like, the same happened in China and Russia. Every time they take away a gun, they're trying to be more authoritarian. Of course, the degree can be extreme, like dictatorships, or it can just be what we see now, just like a fake democracy in many countries. So, but yeah, guns. Yeah, my stance, of course, pro-gun. I personally don't want one. I mean, like, there's nobody where I live. I don't even have neighbors. So, but maybe I'll get one for hunting. Right now, I only hunt with people nearby. But Brazil, it can be difficult to get a gun. Very difficult. So I have to. It's a very long procedure, unfortunately. Meanwhile, in the US, you can just walk into Walmart. I remember when I moved here in the 90s, I was walking to Walmart. I was like, what the fuck? Fucking awesome.
There's guns everywhere.
Yeah, they were just like selling snipers at Walmart. I was like, wow. I mean, Oklahoma. I mean, like it's Oklahoma's anyways a bit more extreme, but yeah, lovely. It's still there. I mean, like they still sell guns at Walmart. And in Brazil, you really have to. The procedure is very long, including psychological tests and whatever reporting, even a safe word to put it, and all this stuff. So it's complex. People who live around here, my closest neighbors, I think they all have guns. I don't think they have them legally. I doubt it. But I mean, like they want to go hunting, and I mean, when they go hunting at night, like, in the middle of the rainforest, there is no police like checking out now. So it's fine, but they're very strict here. So you're not leaving. So if I use machetes, to kill the snakes, etc. And I also use in the car. Just imagine in the jungle, the car stops and there's a snake or something, And when I go to the supermarket, I am not even allowed to enter the supermarket with a small knife, with a super small knife. They would be illegal. So they were rigid here. Which also makes sense because only the criminals have weapons. Of course, if you allow the general public to not own weapons, unless you are a lawyer. If you're a lawyer, you can just every lawyer is allowed to have a weapon without the license. They just ask for it and they get it right away. But everybody who's not a lawyer or a criminal, it's very difficult to get a license. It's like it takes a long time, and you can't just buy it. You have to register every single one. Meanwhile, my American friends, they have an armory of like 50, 60 weapons, and when they want to have weapon number 61, they just get it. That's freedom. And socialist Brazil is not really freedom, at least not to that degree.
Yeah, the U.S. guys have like mini guns and shit. Where basically your entire paycheck can be fired out the end of it in less than a minute. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, I have a buddy who has a huge account here in X as well. Not gonna say who it is, but at least he has. So I went into his living room, and there was like a shelf of 20 feet times. Okay, feet is very difficult. 20 feet times maybe 6 feet. Right? Like huge one, just ammo. I was like, wow, he had several tons of ammo in his living room. Like not like a storage, living room. There was a TV, sofa, everything. Behind it, just ammo. I was like, wow, that's wild. And yeah, I mean, it's cool, kind of. It would be possible here, but I think it's this is actually why America will be the free place even in decades, because I mean, the police never are going to take away people's ammo and guns. I mean, like if there is ever a civil war again, he could literally distribute his weapons and ammo to all the neighbors, and he could build a small army. And I think the neighbors also have weapons. So I doubt the U.S. government can implement the degree of tyranny they're doing it right now in Europe. I mean, Obama tried, and Biden tried. That's like, oh, to take away the weapons, etc. But they didn't succeed, and I think it's literally over now. I mean, like the only people who were like killing others were like transsexuals or these people who tried to assassinate Trump. Yeah, but otherwise, I think if you live in the States, you live in a primarily white area, the likelihood to suffer, like to be killed by someone, I think is very low.
Kind of back on something I kind of wanted to ask you before we could even move on again from that. But about the vaccines, like when they first came out, and of course, they came out at a speed which was surprising to say the least. And of course, then following its release, you had someone like Robert Malone, who initially believed in that this would work, and then realized that it didn't work. And then, of course, that guy was vilified as well for no reason, even though he is literally an expert. It's like you'd have to be told to you, you should listen to experts, and they have this actual expert here, and okay, you're not supposed to listen to him, even though this is the guy who is essential to developing the technology on which these vaccines function. Like, do you have like any insight on that and how all that came to be and the potential issues that people would even have?
Yeah, it's quite wild that many of these experts took it actually, because prior to that there were studies on monkeys, and you could just read them. They were public studies, medical studies of these mRNA vaccines, these COVID-specific mRNA vaccines. And literally, all these monkeys died, and these studies were online. I was tweeting about it, and Twitter 1.0 didn't even take it down because it was factual. So I read the studies, and I'm like, okay, if these monkeys die, after being administered to the vaccine, I'm not going to take that. And it's true. I mean, Robert took it. I don't know for what reason. I never talked with him about that, but he made a U-turn. He said, like, guys, maybe you don't want to take it anymore. Because he had, as he said, he was working with mRNA stuff, mRNA vaccines for decades. And I don't know. I don't know why he took it. I wouldn't have done it if I were him. But he spoke out. He said, like, okay, he wouldn't take it anymore. So he's an expert more than these people who are often on TV, like who was there, Liana Wen, and all these shills, and Dr. Eric Ding, and they just said, like, okay, you have to take it. It's 100% safe and effective. And just by checking the clinical studies, you could tell they were not 100% safe. They were not 100% effective. So why taking something where the long-term risk or even short-term risks were unknown, or in the case of the animal studies, they were known because the animals died. So that's why I didn't take it, and I actually sent the study to my parents and, like, just read the study and reconsider. But they eventually listened to their doctor. It's like, what? I'm like, this doctor doesn't know anything. He went to medical school at some point, and since then he's just like selling big pharma products. So he didn't read any studies. So just read the study. I'll send it to you. And they were like, blah blah blah. So it didn't really work. But the studies were clear. I mean, like, if there were studies, long-term studies on this particular vaccine or this novel technology, what they call it, and it's like extremely effective, maybe I would have taken it. But as my field is vitamin D, and I know that vitamin D level of either 40 or 50 reduce my likelihood of getting sick by up to 99%. So why should I take a vaccine that's much less effective? So I'm a friend of natural immune system, natural immunology, and I live very healthy. I don't eat sugars. I only drink alcohol when I travel, and then I maybe drink too much. But at home, so I'm here sitting with a beer, and it's like alcohol-free beer. I hardly eat any gluten, or I do sometimes, but not when I'm in the jungle. And I work out every day. I take my supplements, especially omega-3 vitamin Ds and some specific ones, and I work out a lot. So, and I'm outside working on my land from 9 till 12 every morning. So I'm extremely healthy. I don't have tap water. I have my own water sources here, spring water coming out of the mountain. I grow all the food myself. And the meat I have from the freezer is boar that we hunt, and local beef and local raw milk. So I don't get sick, and I don't need to run to a doctor who doesn't read studies or clinical studies, and who just like to please Pfizer and all the other pharmaceutical industry, who wants to inject me with something where there's no data, long-term data available. So I just said no. And of course, you need the vaccine to travel, and don't ask me how I traveled, but I'm vaccinated.
Wow.
Yeah, I just committed a crime, but it doesn't matter, I don't know what they're gonna do.
I was like, wait a minute.
No, I can almost say it, like, for example, I mean, like, now they're not going to do anything anymore, but for example, these PCR tests, there were many laboratories offering PCR tests. Remember this? And they all had this QR code. Remember?
Yeah, I do.
It's like crypto backed and like crypto verified, etc. oh my gosh, these they set all this stuff up like within weeks. There are so many backdoors, just like telling you, just so many backdoors, so many security breaches. I mean, like literally 10 years old could just like literally enter their system and just there were so many ways to get around in order to not get vaccinated, not to get tested, and all this stuff. So you just but of course regarding testing. I didn't like playing the game. When usually people ask me, I said like I don't get tested. I don't test myself because once you do it, you're also kind of complying, to some degree. Of course, before you enter an airplane or something, you have to come up with something. And by the way, airplane. I mean, there are so many pilots all over the world who didn't lose their job because of me, who are still unvaccinated. I don't know. I mean, like imagine a pilot getting a heart attack and up there just because they took the vax. So let's say like this, we took care of it. They didn't get a heart attack. So I mean, like it used to be a big crime. Now what are people going to say? What are they going to say? Logo years ago Simon did something illegal which he wasn't specific about. Yeah, wow, okay, But there are many people who did stuff like this or who aided others who needed help during these times. Maybe that's vaccine specific, testing specific, mask specific. I got help from docs, so to have an exempt mask to not wear a mask, So I could just I mean like I've here in Brazil I have my autism card. So my official one. So actually, autistic people didn't have to wear masks, but I didn't know this until later. Yeah. Because I have a small flat in São Paulo where sometimes when I really have to be in the city. So like maybe 3-4 days a month, and like the manager of this it's like a club, It's like in Brazil, apartments are clubs. So yeah, you have an apartment in a house, and on the rooftop there's like a gym, sauna, swimming pool, all this stuff. So like kind of like an all-included holiday, just like in the middle of the city. And like this, the administrator of this house, he was being Stasi, and he sent his lawyers after me. So he sued me for not wearing a mask. I told him to go and fuck himself. I shouldn't have done that, but like I did. I called him a fucking communist. So he's like, this dude is super gay, LGBTQIA, and super leftist, and was just like telling me I'm killing people. I'm like, yeah, you go and fuck yourself. Leave me alone. I don't have to wear a mask. And yeah, he was suing me. Like actually, all the people who are having an apartment in this building, they actually paid for the lawyer. I mean, they just share the cost. Even I had to share the cost. Even I had to pay the lawyer that's suing myself. And I was just like, show them this document, and it was like in Dutch. I was like, they were like, didn't accept it. The judge. I had to go and take the document, translate it from Dutch into like at an official place, from Dutch into Portuguese, which cost me like $200. Then I had the document, and I was like here we go. And then I immediately got like this document, like I'm exempt, also in Portuguese. So then I could just show it everywhere. And fun fact, I was flying with TAP, like in Portugal, to Europe, and they didn't want to let me board. They were like, no. I'm like, look, this is here. Like, exempt. Here's the document. They're like, no. I'm like, why no? They said like, no, we're not letting you. I'm like, yeah, you have to. Like, there's no way. And I had to really ask them, like, I wanted to speak to the boss, and they're like, no, we're gonna let you. I'm like, I want to speak to your boss. Okay, I talked to him. Like, hey, the last chance, I'm gonna sue you into oblivion. I'm gonna sue the fuck out of you. Yeah, they let me board. And what they then did, and they were saying like, there's a person on board who doesn't wear a mask, and they were like putting everybody in the airplane had to move to the front so that the last 3 rows were like empty, and I could sit in the last row in the middle, the furthest from everybody. That's what they did. You can't make this up. And they're like, can you please wear a mask? Just like, I was like, no. So I mean, the flight had 2 hours delay, but I didn't care. And I actually had on the flight all the last rows for myself. And I was laying down, and one stewardess came by, and she's like, like, I don't want to wear a mask. I hate masks as well. I'm so jealous. You did the right thing. I like it. Thank you. So yeah, and this happened on KLM. This happened several times. They're like, you have to wear a mask. I'm like, no, I don't have to. First of all, here's my autistic thing, and like, you know, I actually hate it because people are like, I'm autistic, I'm this and that. I hate it, but I mean, like in this case, it was okay, I think. And I also had the exempt from the doc in Europe, which got translated. So it was like literally everywhere. Even when I was in Berlin, police stormed the train because of me. You're gonna make this up, like.
No way.
Yeah. Berlin. I was like in Berlin, just like visiting a friend of mine, and then this guy came to check my tickets. I'm like, here we go. And he's like, you know, I was sitting in this closed. What do you call this closed? In Germany, in train, you have like these closed wagons, like this, not a wagon, but like these Abteil. How do you say it in English?
I have no idea. What does it run on?
It's like, you know, it's like it's like a closed space for 4 people, you know. So these are little rooms within the train, like first class, you know. And I was the only one in this little room with 4 seats. I'm the only one. Me, myself, without a mask. This guy was like checking my ticket. I'm like, here we go. First class, you know, I even paid more, you know, first class. And he was like, where's your mask? I'm like, I don't wear masks. And he was like, where's your mask? I'm like, I have an exempt. Can I see it? I'm like, no, you can't. I mean, like, you're not allowed to. I mean, you can't. He's like, dude, otherwise I call the police. I'm like, you're not allowed to. I tell you I have an exempt. I don't have to wear a mask. Have a good day. And he was like, we are going to stop the train. And they stopped the train. They really stopped the train. Like ICE train, you know, this one that goes 300 kilometers per hour. They stopped the train, police coming in. I'm like, hey, sir, check this. Here's my exempt. And I've been harassed by this employee. And they were like getting mad at him. I had a good time, man. I had a very good time. Yeah, but of course it caused many other fights. Well, there were people that tried to punch me and scream at me. They lost their mother or sister because people like me wouldn't obey, and you know, yeah. I got into several almost physical fights even because people got mad and people got aggressive, and people thought like, okay, someone who doesn't wear a mask needs to be physically attacked, but I mean, like, I'm rather strong. And these people who felt like attacking were like beta cucks usually, or oh my gosh, twice a very, very obese woman. Also in Berlin, this obese woman was attacking me, and I was like, fuck off, obese woman, you know. I was like, fuck off, fatso, you know. Lose some weight. I told her, like, you know, the chance to die due to COVID is much higher being obese than someone not wearing a mask. I was like, she was aggressive. She tried to like punch me, you know, like telling her like, look, like the comorbidity, like, look at you, you're fat, and make her more and more aggressive. But I mean, like, yeah, she shouldn't have attacked me in the first instance. I think I even took a picture of her and posted on X. If you just search here and said like Berlin or something on a profile, you can see a picture of her. But like, it's really crazy how aggressive people got towards everybody who had a different opinion. And it's not like, you know, it's not like I put anyone's life in danger. The opposite is the case. But I mean, like, even if you share the belief that me wearing a mask, I could like spread all these, you know, pathogens. If they believe in masks, so why do they think that their masks don't work if I don't wear a mask? You know, why do they believe that their vaccine doesn't work if I don't get vaccinated? So this doesn't make any sense. So common sense was totally non-existent in the last couple of years. It's still kind of missing, but in this period it was like crazy. So nothing that happened made sense. And I think this is why many of us found to each other, you know, like the whole followership here in X, people who think alike, people are like, okay, common sense is gone. Where are people with common sense? So we found each other, because in my private life, it was just like, I don't know, a handful of people. So if I look into, let's say I have a private friends and family of 100 people, just to say a number of with whom I have contact, just 5 of them were like sane, and 95 were like totally crazy. So I think back in the time, yeah, I was. I mean, you can see when I made my profile here. I think it was in February 2020. When they said like, "Oh, there's a novel thing coming," I'm like, "Oh, blah, blah. You know, whatever." And I wanted to read the news, and the best place for news when it was Twitter back then. I mean, like, and now it's even much better to read the news. But and then I was just reading the news. I wasn't active. You can see I didn't tweet anything for 1 year until January 2021. Just like a month later, they suspended me. Actually, they gave me 3 tweets, which were the reason of suspension. The first was I tweeted a link to my vitamin D preview vitamin D study. A link, just a link.
But the burger does hit.
The other one was like, oh, I was calling out some shill, but it was nothing against the TOS or whatever. And the third one was that I was asking the Bill Gates Foundation why they invested $30 million
but the burger does hit the spot compared to everything else.
Like BioNTech is like, you know, Pfizer BioNTech made this.
So disgusting.
The majority of the vaccine, the global ones. And Bill Gates invested like literally 3 months before the whole SAP started a significant amount into a company that only was like making red numbers in the course of 10 years. So why would you invest such a high amount of money into a company that's creating mRNA vaccines at that date? So I was just asking them like, hey, why did you do it? And I was sending a link. I was putting a link to their own website, their very website, stating the amount of money they gave to BioNTech. And there was a tweet that got me booted off the platform. I mean, like, with just like a question with a link to their to the website, asking why they did it that time. So medical misinformation. I don't know, it's medical misinformation, but they put me off. And I mean, like, I think then Elon Musk got me back 1.5 years later.
Double.
They even lost a lawsuit against Twitter. I sued them. And,
oh wow.
Yeah, I sued them. And actually, the judge was kind of on my side. So I sued them in Brazil because I moved to Brazil because, you know, I had no bank accounts in Holland and all that stuff. So I moved to Brazil. So yeah, I sued them here in Brazil, and it was like literally my lawyer, which is my wife. She's a lawyer, so works. And Twitter got like 5 lawyers. They paid like 5 lawyers just for my case. She was like, "This is unusual. 5 lawyers. Like, why would they pay 5 lawyers for like?" Anyways, they took the most expensive law firm in the whole country, and they paid 5 lawyers full time. And actually, they made the case that it's like a private company and that they can. So they were saying nothing against my tweets. Like, they were like medical information. They were like, I was going after this. Like, I wanted my account back. This wasn't medical information. They just made the case different. They said like, hey, it's a private company. We can determine who's going to be on our platform, who's not, and who's not allowed to be. So yeah. So the judge said like, okay, what I said. Another thing, I defended myself very well, and he's like, okay, it's good, but it's a private company; they really can do it regarding Brazilian laws, and no chance. And actually, it was funny because I got the sentence, or like the judge made the decision, literally 2 months before, like 2 months after Elon Musk bought Twitter, which is super funny because it took him several months. In Brazil, it's slow. And literally, it was in October and December, Elon Musk reactivated my account. So yeah, so I lost and immediately I won. So I immediately got back. And just after I got my account back, I lost my other job, yeah, I sued them as well. And that's so wild. I actually won last week. They said that they fired me illegally. So because they said like my tweets, all the stuff, and that they came up with lots of stuff. Just imagine my Twitter account got back, and just right after 2 years of very successful collaboration, they just fired me out of nowhere, out of the blue. And then they came up with the first letter said like, because of you. This, like, Simon Godek exceeded his freedom of expression on Twitter. That's what their reason. How can you exceed your freedom of expression on Twitter? I mean, like, that's wild. And yeah, so I won that one. but the judge only gave me $5,000 compensation. 5,000. Imagine $5,000 compensation. Guess why? It's super wild. Guess why? She reduced the compensation to like literally, I don't know, 99%, because I was calling out my former employer on X after I got fired. So the judge said I shouldn't have done that. And this is like, unproportional with that many followers. And the damage I would cause. I was like, why am I not allowed to say, like, hey, they're firing me because of this. And the judge is like, just because after I got fired, I made tweets about this. It got reduced. I think we were asking for $200,000. Like I got $5,000. Doesn't even pay my lawyers. Doesn't pay anything. So now we go to the next instance. Because it's ridiculous. I mean, like they say, like, oh, you got fired illegally, but afterwards you made tweets about this. So, we reduce the compensation to just $5,000. What's $5,000? It's like literally a 2-week salary which I had. It doesn't make any sense because I still had a long contract there. So, yeah, taking it to the next thing, but like that was really wild. And the first time I got fired in the Netherlands was. Because I was speaking out against the PCR test, and they were publicly making a tweet that what I said was correct, and that freedom of expression is also is my right, and that I said nothing wrong, and like publicly, here on X, the tweet still exists, and literally 2 weeks later, I got the call saying by a professor saying like they got like they were told from above. I don't know what's above. If it's the ministry, if it's the dean, I don't know. He didn't say.
God.
Yes, they should get rid of me, and that's what they did. And back then, I didn't even think about suing because I was like a greenhorn. I wasn't even, I was just active on social media the first time literally in my life, and I didn't know what to do. I was always my whole career was like doing a bachelor's, a master's, a PhD, postdoc, and then another postdoc, and then teaching, and it was just like a normal career to become a full-time professor until all this stuff happened. I never thought about it. I never needed a lawyer in my life, so I mean, I didn't even think about this. So nowadays I would just like sue the hell out of them, like the Norwegians now, but back then it was like, yeah, whatever, what can I do, And I think even if I got a lawyer, I think we wouldn't have had any chance, because during that time, everybody who went against the mainstream narrative would automatically like lose every lawsuit. It doesn't matter, at least in Europe, not in the US.
One of my friends once termed this type of occurrence as a non-kinetic type of civil war, in that it's an intellectual civil war. And I think looking at what exactly has happened, I mean, terming people such derogatory things like the appendix of society, that's a good insult, by the way, that's amazing. Like coming up with something like that to basically try and put down and discriminate against a particular thought group is just, that is really warfare. That is nothing more than just info warfare. And
because we committed a thought crime, right?
Yeah, exactly. I really hope this doesn't occur again, or at least doesn't occur again for a very long time. Because like to live through this again is going to be absolute hell. I mean, look, understanding bureaucracy is really going to be the only thing that saves you. But at the end of the day, like there's really so much that you can in fact do. I think the majority of the people cannot understand all of the nonsense, hyper-complex bureaucracy, and then just get fucked for no reason, and they don't deserve to get fucked. So it's like it's a very annoying thing. Even when I look at, say, something like the tax code or just like anything in law, it's so hyper complex, and it's designed to just fuck you over everything in many ways. And then they use this against you, and then they pressure you socially, and then it just all adds up, and it becomes this huge issue. Yeah.
With the taxes, like there are so many people who were on like the conservative side, the critical side, and they would go after them regarding taxes. Oh, you can pay this and that. Which is like everybody who's taxes are complicated. I have 2 tax advisors just because I don't understand anything. But just imagine someone doing it themselves. You find at every person you find something if you just dig deep enough, And that's like the power the government has. That like, okay, this person, we don't like this person. Let's see what he has to hide, or let's see what he's if there's anything we can find, and that's what they did a lot in Germany and Switzerland and Austria. They were like going after people just for taxes or any other stuff they didn't pay, and they should have paid. Sometimes it was just like just a small amount of money, but they would just like persecute you. They actually didn't care whether it was something like a huge number. Like, I mean, you know, if you're the German chancellor and you're involved in Cum-Ex, no problem. I mean, it was a global scandal, billions of dollars, no problem. You know, he just says, I don't remember anymore. No problem. Nobody's talking about this. But if you didn't pay your $18.36 for government propaganda, they come after you. They knock at your door. They raid you. So yeah, that's the next scary thing. So it's not about justice. It's about, as you said, thought crime. So if you think differently than the elite, I mean, I actually don't like calling them elite because they're not elite. They're bottom feeders. But those who are in power, those who are steering the narrative, they come after you. I mean, like, that's to me, but others are, you know, J6 people, and you know, there's so many people who never committed a crime, but they're prosecuted for nothing just because they believe in something different, they think differently, they don't agree with the alleged majority, and that's dangerous. And that's why I will say science is like academia is dead. There is no. Science is what it used to be. It's a dogma. It's no more free. And let's
look at Harvard. Look at Harvard. Its reputation has been crashed like by its own practices. Realistically, I mean, they have the reputation. The thing I will forever hold above their heads, which is the most ironically entertaining thing that they could have like allow happen to themselves. It was a person that published a paper or had a paper reviewed about lying and deception, and they lied on that paper amongst many other instances. I just thought that was a really funny thing to always bring up. And then just recently, of course, you know, I roasted somebody for the fact that they basically were somehow pulling out works of fiction, the insinuation that the way certain smells were like the references of smells to people were somehow prejudiced in some way, and because in these works of fiction this could be somehow extrapolated, thereby this type of discrimination must exist, and they created this thing of olfactory oppression or something like that. Just complete absolute waste of space bullshit. You should see it. I wrote up a post about it. They're like, yeah, and I heard a bunch of people that like came after me for it as well. It's like, oh my god, this guy's trashing a woman. I'm like, I don't trash women. I don't even care. That guy could have been a dude. That guy could have been anything. I don't care. Really. It was just that if you write gobbledygook, I'm just going to call you out on it. I think it's fucking funny as shit. Here, let me find the post, actually. It would be... Jesus Christ, I yap so much. Holy fuck. There we go. Pin it up at the top. This. Now, this is just an interpretation, but it's like, it's very strange.
Okay, I have to read. Oh, crazy.
Just read those words that are cited.
Wow. Yeah.
Again, like it's not who's doing this. It's what the stuff is itself. It doesn't matter. Like, I don't care who's behind this this pseudo-intellectual nonsense. I really don't care. It doesn't matter to me.
Wow.
What matters to me is that it's discrediting science.
Wow. I just read it. It's wow. And these people have a PhD as well. Wow.
Wild. You know what I was thinking?
Wild. Yeah. Tell me.
I was thinking at some point I should probably go to university somewhere, like pay all the money that's necessary to get this through. But I do believe that I could potentially get a doctorate in writing, like as a result of writing a thesis on the socioeconomic impact of these nuts jokes on society. Like, I think I could probably write up a study about that. Just like, oh hey, how did you get your doctorate? Well, it's about these nuts. You know, that would be the greatest introduction ever. It's like, how did you get your doctorate? These nuts. And nobody could say anything about it. I actually want to do this at some point. Maybe maybe I will, But it would be a great way to say, hey, I know how to word a doctor.
If you want to get a doctorate, just like enter gender studies, and you can like come up with everything logical. I mean, like, what can they say? If they say anything against you, just like are you transphobic, and you won, It's like, So I mean, but you would have to be woke. But I think it wouldn't be funny. Just like writing for. I think you have to write 4 publications.
Be very exhausting, yeah. So it costs money and it would be exhausting.
Hey,
so rather than
can you write me 4 publications full of bullshit?
Exactly.
Just send it in. Yeah. Crazy. Just check the lady's profile. It's even she, her, and all these LGBT flags. Wow. I mean, she isn't even that ugly, to be fair. But,
again, I have no issue with a person. I have no issue with a person. I have an issue with the pseudo-intellectual nonsense. Like, I don't have issues with people. I have issues with some of the dog shit that they produce. Like, I will call you out on your dog shit. That doesn't mean that I'm coming after you as a person. I'm just like looking at this thing and be like, hey, do you really have to, what's this? Come on.
She's going viral every tweet. 1 hour ago, 11,000 likes. 3 hours.
Oh, yeah. I made like 1 quote post and left 1 comment, and then I kept quoting me a bunch of times over, and I was like, I am not even going to respond in the slightest to anything. I'm just going to watch the impressions come in. Like, I'm not going to do anything at all. I'm just going to enjoy this nonsense. They're all trying to like debunk my claim.
Oh, she's even going after you all the time here. Oh my God! How does a 10,000 follower account get more than 20,000 likes on every tweet?
It's because of the actually, hang on. Is this still like that? That's strange. That happens sometimes. Hang on, let me take a look.
Just check.
Yeah, that could happen. Yeah, that could happen. Yeah, so like, say for instance, the platform itself is actually very diverse still, and so it would just be much to the contrary of what all the weird people are saying. There's actually a lot of people on here still that would actually enjoy this type of content. And so then now this acts like a kind of magnet for recommendation system. And so temporarily, this person for the next like week or 2 is going to have like hella engagement, and it's going to die down after a while. Like after a month, that account is probably only get like 11,000 impressions per post every 10 hours maybe, or less, depending on the frequency, of course.
It's wild. 1 hour, 260,000 views. Wow.
I mean, there was a time when I would just post random shit and would get like 20,000 impressions. The funniest shit ever. It was like when the conspiracy theory stuff started happening, like Tesla Q once tried to fuck with me or something, and then they started a massive trend. And then whenever I post anything, there would be like trolls under every single thing that I post. It would be the funniest stuff ever because I just farmed the replies and farmed the engagement. Like, I don't give a shit. I'm just gonna like put my thoughts out there now, which then led to me doing a lot more active stuff on the platform at the spaces. But yeah, and of course the Donald Trump space, same thing.
The liberals are like, okay, our voices are suppressed, and meanwhile, this girl with this wild PG thesis is like pushing over, It's really wild.
Yeah, like I think this is a beautiful thing. Exactly. Like, this is a beautiful thing. This is an incredible thing. I love to see this. I absolutely love to see this. People find each other. It doesn't matter what it is. If you want to have a conversation about your gobbledygook, we're going to have a conversation about the gobbledygook, but don't call me out on it. Like, I just want to ask questions, and I will call shit. I will call bullshit where I find it. But you can see this clearly here. Like, you could take screenshots of this and say, all these people say they're being suppressed somehow. That they're not. This is an account that's not even verified. That's on top of that. Like, do you have any idea how difficult it is for a non-verified account to get viral? Like, this is insane. This is really, really good. Just proves to you that there really aren't these types of restrictions that people say that there are. It's like it's just cope, and it's all just bullshit. Right? People really want to push the narrative that X is dying.
He's literally hiding hundreds of replies. He's hiding everything.
Yeah, I think that's funny.
Wow.
First, I understand this to a certain extent because then people come in with the personal attacks, and I don't want to do personal attacks. I want to do a bit of intellectual sparring. That's fine. Like, for instance, I'll give you an interesting example. I once had a member of the World Economic Forum on a stage. It was very interesting to have a conversation with him, and we were like going back and forth, and I was using his own principles and the way that the economic forums, they kind of like argue a certain way, and I just basically used their style of thinking to basically get my perspective across as well, while unifying it with his perspective. It was a very interesting conversation. It was very exhausting to a certain extent as well, because I wanted to try and be as compatible as possible to this worldview that is somewhat antithetical to me. Right? It's like there's parts of it which I do agree with, but then the deeper parts of that iceberg is stuff that I absolutely don't agree with, but we can kind of agree on the tips there. So we kind of unify. It's like that, yeah. So I like to have conversations like that as opposed to, just attacking each other like that. It's good. I did do attacks at some point, but it's just kind of cheap. I don't like it.
You attacked her, but I mean, like in a way,
in an intellectual way.
Intellectual way. Yeah, of course. But it's really hilarious how she quote tweets you.
Yeah. Look, I don't mind. Give me all the impressions. I don't care. Just I want to reach like 1 billion. I want to reach 1 billion impressions. Man. That's also wild, Like I almost have 1 billion impressions for the year on this platform. Isn't it incredible? Like X, I think is such an amazing player.
1 billion? You have 1 billion? Wow.
Yeah, for the year. Almost. I'm like 40 million out still, but yeah, it's incredible. Like I'd have never imagined this. Like even a year ago, I would have never imagined this. Like this platform is incredible for growth, and I absolutely love it. And especially recently with the recent vibe shift, it's been a lot more easier. It's been easier to connect with people. And there's a lot less gatekeepers as well, because I think before you kind of had to, you kind of had to bend your principles to people of a different position because they kind of held all the keys. But that position is just completely dissolved, and now you can go direct to the source. Like, oh, hey, to talk to this person. Now the engagement, I don't have to rely on someone who's on the inside. I can just ask them directly. Like with you, so we asked you directly, which is great. Great opportunity. I'm glad we finally had this conversation. I wanted to have a conversation like this for quite a while. Even I think about half a year ago. But, it's nice you have your opportunities come around, and yeah, it's fun. It's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's really awesome what this platform does. I mean, like you have 136,000 followers, 1 billion. I mean, like I have 1 billion with 1 million followers, but it's like always. It's always about like who's like. I think Elon Musk has been retweeting you a couple of times, so then each time you get like 20 or 30 million. It helps, of course, a lot. But like that's the way to go. I mean, like whenever you have good content, someone, doesn't matter who it is, some big account will amplify you, and the better content you write, the more success you're gonna have. So other people are like, okay, you just get help by this and this big account. That's why no. If you only write bullshit, you're never gonna make 1 billion. And nobody's gonna take it seriously. I mean, like unless you reach from Howard, and wherever the algorithm is pushing you. But I mean, like I think it's the case if you don't post a lot, and once you post, it goes viral, like totally. I think then the algorithm is taking up again. The next time post again. See Tiffany Gomez, she's the same. So whenever she's tweeting something, everybody sees it. Just because she went viral at one point as the charming plain lady, and she's not very active on this platform. Whenever she posts, it's shown to many people. I think if you don't post like 30 or 40 times per day, I think your tweet is shown to more people. But I mean, like I don't know. Yeah, like there's a certain limit. Yeah, there's like a certain limit. I go by like about every 20 minutes or so I post something because I actually don't want to just yap. There's someone called Yassine. I'm pretty sure you might have seen him. Yassine, the guy who works at X. It's like a dev or something. Yassine. It's very funny that people call him Yapsine as well. He posts so much. You look at his fucking timeline, and then occasionally like a banger pops off, and this guy just like grows by just farming the autism, like uses the autism as an ability. I kind of do the same, but I do it in different ways. But like what he does is like simply unmatched. He basically takes the insanity that comes with whatever programming is and just projects that outwards into the internet, and it's wildly successful as a result because a lot of that stuff does in fact make sense. I mean, have you never been like stuck at work and you're like doing something and all of a sudden you're in this flow state, you get this super crazy idea, you just write it down, you post it. You're about to say something in conversation, you have like this thought that's really, really cool, you put it together and you say it and you're like, God damn, that was a banger, I'm going to save that for later and then post it out. That's kind of how it works. I'm like very free flow with this. I don't really post for the sake of engagement, I just post for the sake of posting. And I think that's kind of how it's supposed to be. And I think you just look at some of the more successful accounts on here, like say Tiffany Falk, for instance,
There's like massive payouts. Everybody complains.
She is part of the beta stuff video. She gets paid.
But she doesn't have that much video though. She doesn't have that much video. That's the thing. When I look at it, the consistent thing is actually replies. This is what people don't understand. Even with the parody accounts, look at their replies. You can do the math. It's wild. It's wild. They don't need to go to work. That's all I'm gonna say. They don't need to go to work.
Penny 2K, for example. Penny 2K. He's tweeting 1,000 tweets per day. It's one per minute. How?
Well, they're not necessarily posts. They're like their replies. The replies actually do get counted as posts as well, which is also why I don't reply as much. I actually don't. That's like one of the cardinal rules I just break instantly. I don't give a shit. Like I want to post for the sake of just me saying something that I want to say, not because I want to meet some sort of quota necessarily. Like that's not something that I'm into. I'm just gonna post my thoughts. And I mean, look, if you're gonna comment a lot under stuff that's in your own, that's like on your own posts, then the post itself kind of gets recommended higher within whatever your following is, and that's a really cool thing.
Up to,
you get
more
people replying to that.
Replies, so I think it's amplified.
Yeah.
Up to 10 replies. That's why the Krassensteins, oh my gosh, I hate saying the name, but I mean, like they always reply to 10 posts underneath, so their post is shown to more people. I mean,
it's not just like the replies themselves, but like the nature. It's like even the nature of the replies themselves as well. That I think is,
of course.
Yeah, because like you look at the Krassensteins, they're not really performing that well, and it's not because they're oppressed with something. It's not that at all. It's just or suppressed. Actually, sorry, using the wrong verbiage here. It's just because it's negativity. It's like stuff. The way I like to basically post anything is to say, will this maximize user minutes for the platform? Because anything that maximizes user minutes for the platform performs wildly, even with even with minimal activity, and that was like activity of at least, what was I doing? 2 posts a day? Like even when I was doing that with 0 replies, absolutely almost no interaction, I basically got 10x whatever the Krassensteins would get, for instance. Why is that? He adds context or somehow interfaces with the post, and that would be like an organic, high-value reply. And parody accounts, I think, even have this down to a science, because they'd be posting random stuff, and they actually have the level of interaction where they directly respond to whatever has been like typed out in a post, and that then directly links it. It's perfect engagement. When I look at that, a lot of it's kind of nonsensical in a sense, but the ones who would make the biggest bank have like a shit ton of replies. Yeah. Especially those types of replies. I can just see it. I just look at the system all day, and I just kind of. It's the autism I do with things.
I can show you how I play the system, or everybody who's listening right now. So I ran some tests for myself. So I figured when I write threads, informative threads, that performs very well.
The traders were going
to
To a traders means nothing to our order. But his wife is under our protection, and by extension, her son.
The last, I think.
House Harkington would never dream of violating the sanctity of your order.
So I saw like, okay, I only got.
I give you my word.
200.
We will not harm you.
300, 400 maybe, and
If the Duke's son lives,
No trade is.
my lord, you gave your word to the witch.
I said I would not harm them. Arrakis is Arrakis. The desert takes the weak. My desert. My Arrakis. I do.
Including in total 50 million views, which of course is significant.
That's a perfect format. Yeah.
Huh?
It's a perfect format because, again, that's the thing that maximizes user minutes. Like the chance that somebody will go down the entire list of posts that you've attached to the main post is insane.
Yeah,
exactly.
They have the main post open. They don't click every response. They go and read everything, which maybe takes them like 5 or 10 minutes. And X sees like, oh wow, they're staring at his tweet for 5 or 10 minutes. Many people are staring at his tweet for 5 or 10 minutes. So that way it's shown to many people. So for example, my thread on testosterone, I think, got like 8 million or something, and then of course every of these 25 replies, and then 24 replies, 25 is the maximum you should do in a thread, also has like a couple of 100,000 of views. So that's how it adds up.
You done like a thread? Have you done a thread on microplastics in our balls yet? Because I feel like
I just put it on my thread list. I have a list here of topics, and the next topic will be Peter Halputes again, because he deserves it. I can't. Anyway, no, we'll write one about microplastics balls. I have 2 publications I read about it, but I of course have to read more, because otherwise it's a post thing. But I will. Write about it, and we'll also write about it how it.
of hoflation, it's like basically the inflation of the hose, and that performed very, very well. So like the stuff like that, for instance, this stuff performs really well.
I should be more on B, right? To get inspired.
Just do whatever feels good. It's just like whatever feels good. Don't be accusatory or anything like that.
When I'm on 4chan, I'm like, okay, I cannot make this a post. Like, I can't. Of course, if you go to Paul on the political stuff, maybe, but in general, whatever you see on 4chan, you better than post on X. So I've been on 4chan like, I don't know, my whole youth. And oh my gosh, it's really not good for you, but it's fun. It can be fun at least. But I mean, like, don't go there.
It's like there's it's like those early Modern Warfare 360 like Xbox lobbies, but just like you're inundated with all the swear words known to man. And it's like there's 3 people that come out the other end. The person is completely distraught and probably wants to end himself. The person is extremely resilient, or the person is a psychopath and continues on the trend. Like that's a very Darwinistic type of environment, and I think 4chan is kind of like that. It's very Darwinistic. Many people look at it and just go insane. I look at it and just laugh because it's fucking funny shit.
Yeah, it's funny. But I mean, like, finding
the cinema is unhinged if possible.
Yeah, it's 100% unhinged. It's like 100% free speech. I mean, there are no barriers. I mean, we know how it is. And we don't even have to talk about 4chan. I think it's which rule is it? 1, 2, 3? I don't know. I can't recall.
Talk about these platforms. I think it's fine.
Yeah,
it's not
exactly. Always blame it on E-Bomb's World, if you still remember E-Bomb's World.
Oh my fucking god.
Yeah, good times.
In fact, you know what that is? Insane.
Pool is closed due to what? Remember?
No, I didn't watch that. But I kind of most of my internet knowledge is just like I get the memes in because my early focus was more so on like kind of rocket science in a sense as well. Like I was just basically interested in a bunch of things such as philosophy, a little bit of rocket science. I just cats, so I watch a ton of cat videos. It's like when I wouldn't be interested in how space works, I would be interested in just like philosophy and debates as a result. So I actually did a lot of debates, which kind of allows me to speak properly, because otherwise I would be stuttering a whole lot more. Like over time, I'm kind of on the spectrum where the speech becomes difficult, where I have a lot of thought, and that thought is very well formed, has a lot of context, and it's very good, it's very well rounded. But the speech aspect is sometimes very difficult. The only reason why I'm able to speak properly in many settings is because I've repeated a lot of things. I'm like one of those. It's like hypervector compute, where everything's already there, and you're just like taking existing connections and you just bring them up, within whatever context you have. It's kind of like that.
It's the same. I mean, it's a very autistic thing. Like almost all of us have it, right? So that's why my tweets are much better written than like me in space. That's why I avoid space. There are people who are really great in what they're saying and how they express themselves. I'm not. I suck at it. But my thoughts are very clear. And writing it down, I also have a couple of seconds more to express myself in a better way. Exactly. And there are really people who have podcasts who are rocking it. They're like thinking faster than they speak, and I can't. That's why I usually not on spaces.
Coffee is remarkable.
Yeah, I don't even know when to speak. So now we have a dialogue, but if there's a third or fourth person, I wouldn't speak anymore because I wouldn't even know when it's my turn. So that's why I enjoy Twitter. But of all,
it's actually why I kept the space to like 2 people. So I was like, wait a minute, this could probably be an issue, because I read the way that you posted it, and I was like, okay, this guy's definitely on the spectrum. I'm just going to keep it at 2 space like that. It's the first time I've actually done a space where the guest is like, it's only 2 people that are actually having a conversation. It's the first time I'm solo carrying it. It's because I've done a lot of spaces, and at some point you just kind of get used to it, I suppose. I just host a conversation space, that's what we call it, every single day, starting at the same time. It's ironic because he actually picked the perfect time, because that's when we usually start the conversation space. So like that's why a lot of communities here are able to listen, because we have this kind of every single day. And if you can't be present, if your mind doesn't work properly, then the whole show just falls apart. Like actually carrying a show is really fucking difficult. It's a lot of mental work. Sometimes I don't even want to do it. Like sometimes I have to take like a day off because I have a headache or something. And it's just like a flood of info, huge variance in topics as well. And unless it's something I'm really familiar with, and I just basically turn into the Elon Musk Gen Z version of the omniliberal, which is I'm scared of that.
By the way,
the Omni. I don't do much time. I don't do much time. He's kind of funny.
Well, he's funny. Yeah, he's funny. We can agree on that. Last week I've been to Florida and I've been to Luke Rutkowski. Like Luke, we had change. I think he has a huge account here on X as well, 600,000. I think I've been on his podcast. So I think for 3 days in a row. So he has a studio and he has always a guest, a co-host, and me as like kind of the second co-host. And it's like a 2-hour podcast with quite known people, well, actually very known people. And I was sitting there, and they were like, at some point, Simon, don't you want to speak? I'm like, I don't know when. I don't know when. So once my thought is ready, and I could go, someone is quicker and change the topic. So it's like when there are more than literally 2 people, I don't know when to speak. At some point, they were like in the podcast, like after 45 minutes, I'm just sitting there, sipping my beer. Like, I don't know what to talk about. Well, when, I just don't find, it's very difficult for me to, like, a dialogue, it's super fine, but when it's like a trialogue or even more, it's getting a bit complicated. But these people, they kind of seem to know when to talk. I don't.
They pick up these weird social cues. It's like it's like when you see patterns. The way I like to look at it is this, because so normally you can kind of predict how a person talks, and they make these, it's almost like how you write text, right? And so you kind of come to the culmination, and there's certain words that you kind of lead up to with that, and your voice tends to decrease in terms of volume, maybe even gets deeper, or your pitch goes higher or something like that, and you can interject immediately. Like whenever something like that happens, you can normally interject. And it's very difficult to predict this because many people just do it instinctively. I'm just a meat computer. I just kind of predict it, and it sometimes works. Like in your case, Alex, like we have a bit of a latency issue, I believe, because we're quite far away. I suppose. And so, like, otherwise the dialogue would be perfect. There would be almost no disruption whatsoever. But they can kind of see that there is a way to get in. It's just very difficult to do it. And it's actually kind of funny that I can describe it consciously while the process is happening. It's really weird levels of projection.
In dialogues, it's possible, but in this podcast, people are interrupting each other.
They're like professionals at doing that too.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say. Like even the guests were not professionals. They just not. It's just like I'm like, wow. I'm just sitting there enjoying. I'm there laughing sometimes. I don't say anything. I'm only like if someone's asking something specific, I can talk. I can but like, in this, it's a different world. I don't know. It's still fun, but I prefer dialogue. But by the way, do you want to bring up people for questions, or how do you do it in Spaces?
Oh yeah, I could do that actually. I'll just bring up Andre. It's like one of the people who usually joins here. I'll have to bring up. I'm not sure where Blythe is. There's like a guy who co-hosts with me a lot, Blythe. I'm not sure if he's there down there somewhere. But yeah, I'll bring him up if I see him. Andre, what's up, dude?
What's up, Adrian? What's up, Dr. Simon? Man, you guys have a great discussion. I actually wanted to ask a couple of questions. Thanks for having me up here. Dr. Simon, thanks for joining Adrian Space. I wanted to ask you, so a while back earlier, you talked about how there's a lot of other scientists that kind of went against you in terms of what you were saying. But there's so many things, like, for example, the masks and many other things that, well, I would imagine most scientists would agree. Yeah, the cloth masks are pointless to stop the virus. Why do you think they never stood up and voiced that like you did?
Wow, good one. That's a good one. I was asking myself all the time. I was wondering all the time. I think because, in the last decades, people are not taught anymore to think critically. So they're already a product of the system. So they are scientists who go with the narrative and who don't question the narrative. So this is the only explanation I have. So, for example, at my university in Wageningen, Netherlands, where I was working at, so I was the only one literally who was like, hey, CO2 isn't bad for the planet, I was saying, like, there are more people dying because of the cold than of heat. And these people got crazy. And it's like, you can't say this. The science is settled. I'm like, the science never settled. This was prior to COVID. I had like the discussion with them about science being settled. Before that, I was on Iceland doing my PhD. And my supervisor, he was in the Club of Rome. He was a member of the Club of Rome, I didn't know the Club of Rome then. I read about it later, and I learned what it actually was about. It's like think tank, woke think tank. And also we had this climate discussion. I'm like, CO2, CO2 is the most important thing. Carbon is life, And I told him, like, plants in the greenhouse need CO2 to grow. So why is CO2 bad? And he didn't even answer me. He got like Superman. It's like the science settled. Like there are things I shouldn't question. I'm like, so this is like how my scientific career started. And and during COVID, it wasn't different. It wasn't the topic climate. It was now a new topic, but they were told like these masks are effective. And these people don't think like a typical scientist. They're like, okay, wait, is it really the case? And they make one more train of thought and think like, okay, well, how big is a pathogen, and how big are like these holes in a mask? Like they're woven with different stuff, but they don't make this thought. They don't get there. So they stop at they're effective. You need to wear them, and they don't make any additional effort to think further. And when you ask them, of course, about the masks and like how they just reject your they don't want to talk with you about it. They're just like, no, it's not that, or they ask, are you anti-science and stuff like this. So they cannot come up with anything logically. And at least this is what I experienced myself. Because there's no way a scientist can actually can actually support the idea of cloth mask or any mask to work against the pathogen. They can't. That's why they're reflecting it. So yeah, that's what I think. But I don't know. Maybe for this we need a social scientist. I mean, I think social scientists are a joke, but maybe someone can dig deeper into this phenomenon because it doesn't make sense. You're right.
Yeah, there was some indication that basically if you have a society in constant fear, then a person stops thinking irrationally, right? But even so, you don't want to think critically about the masks, so you have nothing to read. But then let's say the ventilators, for example. Every doctor trained on the ventilators should have been aware, because it's per regulation that you can't put a person on a ventilator for more than 24 hours, because otherwise it starts damaging the lungs. And yet they go against those regulations just simply because something changed. Like that one, I don't understand, right? Or am I wrong about the ventilators?
No, you're totally right. But you remember what they were saying back then?
For the co-host, we have Mike. Welcome in, Mike.
They said science can change.
Well, that's the best part, right? So they were saying at the same time, science is settled, then science can change.
Exactly. What I just want to say. They said the science settled
And
whatever.
my friend Mike also
the
uses
science
sheet,
constantly
and he said
changing
it's a great
towards
material,
something that
super
suits them.
awesome,
So
comfortable
these are the
underwear.
arguments
If
they
you
were
want,
using.
because I couldn't really give me a straight up answer about the slavery.
I guess
overall
nothing makes
against
sense
slavery.
this time. But I think they were
It's
also
just
afraid because
confirmation bias
they felt the
nonsense.
pressure.
Because you said you want to
And
call it
they knew if they are
that's why.
not going to obey, they might be next, or they might get into trouble. So the coercion rate was quite high.
So then begs the question. I mean, not asking for what we should do as retribution or so forth. That's not what I'm asking. But I'm gonna ask a question that comes off like that. That's why the preface. But if a person has a certain title, a doctorate or something, and in that area clearly was in the wrong, isn't that a position? Say, look, you just abandoned your title during the time when your title, your work, your education should have been a shining light. You were kind of instrumental in helping mislead a lot of people, right?
Well, freedom of speech. So they can have a title and they can say whatever they want. It stops, of course, when they deliberately harm people, right? So, but you have to prove that they did something deliberately. So for Christian Drosten, for Fauci, etc., there's enough proof. So they, of course, should lose whatever the title, or actually goes further, they should go to jail. Crimes against humanity is a different thing. But of course, if you're an MD, and I mean, in general, MDs are not very well informed, right? So the average MD is let's say they often don't even understand how our metabolism works, because that's often not what they learn at university. So of course these people were believing whatever they were told. Why not believe the NIH, the CDC? That's what they used to do. Just believe what they are saying, and they didn't change. They just did what they always did. Prescribing big pharma products that they're told that are effective, and just doing a normal, seeing patients, on a daily level. And usually these people don't think a lot. They have their book and they say, okay, this guy has a flu. Okay, what can we give him? It's as simple as that. But people who literally were pushing the narrative, and they were pushing the false narrative, like Peter Hotez. He knew, for example, that ivermectin is highly effective, and he still called it the horse paste and made fun of people who were supporting it. And these people did it deliberately. Yes, these people should not be removed from society, but they should go to jail, because these were the public experts, right? So they were on television the whole time. They knew that their words had a high impact on society and on people. And they were harming millions of people with what they say, and they knew they were lying. So of course these people need to be held responsible, but not like an MD from Greenville, Alabama, or whatever. These people often just followed orders and they don't think for themselves, and they shouldn't use their degrees because they were doing nothing different. But yeah, the big players, they should be held accountable, and I hope it's going to happen.